Time now to join Frank O'Callaghan for the next instalment of the series Dundalk's Radio and Television People. Part 4. In this programme, Frank O'Callaghan concludes the slideshow presentation in the AV Theatre, County Museum, Dundalk. The presentation covered topics such as the arrival of television services in Ireland, the creation of manufacturing hubs such as GEC and Reynolds Electronics, the many local businesses that sold and serviced radios and televisions, and about the role of Regional Technical College Electronics Department in the industry's development. So far, we have heard contributions from Tom Lamb, Frank Byrne, Des O'Loughlin, Damien Halpenny, Noel and Aidan McCann, Stephanie Cumisky, Nee McCann, Rory Hall, John Fox and his sister Margaret Gamble, Nee Fox, John and James McLaughlin, Deirdre McGardle, John McGardle and Brian O'Neill.
I want to move on now to a company called Des Downey. He christened himself the television man. I don't know why, but here's the various ads he had in the papers for all sorts of product, but we have no further information on Des, so there's no point in hanging about there. So ITV Rentals had places in Galway and Kilkenny, Limerick, Waterford, Sligo, Dublin and Cork. And again, they were advertising products at different prices, you can see there. But as far as I can establish, Jim Lally's dad came over from the west of Ireland. And the reason he came over is that he didn't want to have to emigrate or take his family away from the west of Ireland to America and stuff. So he was in a show band, and he played a lot of show band scenes or venues over here. And he came over as the manager of Greenore Golf Club. And then he got in touch with some other gentlemen from County Cavan, and they got involved in the television business. He worked for this company here, and then eventually he set up his own Lally's company. I highlighted that there because it states there that the company had a top-class engineer and expert aerial erector. So we'll move on and we'll go to a company called RTV Rentals, but again, blank screen, know nothing about them. And again, we'll move on to another great Dundalk company. This is a company called Benny, because it's there, but there was an Eddie Maguire. And I'm delighted to welcome Jack and Ursula Maguire, or it's Tennyson actually, but Nee Maguire with us tonight. And you can see here that the brothers and the whole of the family, they were very much into orchestra and show bands of the day. This here is I got these photographs from Some Dundalk Days by Victor Whitmarsh. And you can see the names, 1949, the Swinging Manhattans, S. Maguire, B. Maguire, on Markey, S. Maguire, E. Maguire, Q. McCabe's, and a Rice. And over here, very much the same names again. And this is an advertisement from the Democrat in 1960 and 61, where Benny Maguire was advertising 6 only transistor radios for 12 shillings and 10 pence. And this photograph here I got of Brian here in the museum. And it's of Benny Maguire's shop. But the thing here is that at that time, Benny sold the pilot televisions. So I'd like to ask Ursula or Jack, tell me something about the photographs here, what that was all about at the time and the music type of thing they were in.
That was the time of the big band era. And in the Maguires, there was 7 boys in the family, and 4 of them were in the band. Shamey started first. He joined the Emmett band, and Benny followed him, and then Jerry, and then my father Eddie. He was the youngest, so he was the last to start. But the 2 boys were in the Manhattans and other bands before Benny decided then to set up his own band. And at that stage, then Daddy was old enough to join. So
and do you mind me asking, could people doing this work at the time, was it a hobby or was it a money earner for family support?
It was extra money, extra income to pay the bills, but as well as they had the love for music, the 4 of them now. They had a great passion for music. And so my father played the saxophone and the clarinet, and Benny played the saxophone, and Jerry played the drums, and Shamey, he played the trumpet and the trombone. So they set up in the early 50s, and they played locally, and they were a resident band in the Pavilion for a couple of years on a Sunday, and they played locally, they played in other counties, and they did one trip to Glasgow. And at that time, Benny had a taxi as well. They were very busy boys, so they worked in everything. And they worked full-time as well as doing the band. And they went to Glasgow. So Benny had his taxi, so they packed it all up and off they went to do a couple of gigs there. And in 58 then, Benny and Eddie and Jack, then the three of them opened the music store, and they were selling record players.
That was this place here.
That's that, yeah.
And then how did they get into the television business?
Well, you see, first of all, they opened the shop. They had record players, music. It was all to do with musical instruments, and they had music sheets. They sold everything, anything to do with music. And then in the 60s, then they decided there was an opening there. Everybody was opening television shops. So the renting televisions, they started in the 60s. So they did that while working full-time. And in the mid-60s then, Benny bought the pub at the back of the shop there, which was the Benny Maguire Lounge.
That there is where Tiernan's, the solicitors, currently is it? Yeah.
Yeah, Tiernan solicitors. So in 1971 then, Benny decided just go full-time into the lounge, the pub business, and then Eddie decided then to carry on with the television. So he opened up his own business, Eddie Maguire's, in Bridge Street. So he was there for 20 years, and then in 1991 he moved to Church Street, where he's been there now since.
Excellent.
So I'll let Jackie tell you a little bit about that now. 50 years in business.
Oh. Well, look at us after saying everything there. So look, my father was obviously, he carried on in the TV business from 1971, opened it up because he was more from a technical background. He enjoyed, like Tom and all these boys here, they learned how to repair stuff, and that's what he wanted to keep on doing. So it was a great advantage on that end of it, being in business. And as Ursula said, he opened up in 1971, and then we moved up in 1991. He passed away then in 1995. We were only in Church Street 4 years, and then look, we've been there since. So we're still going.
Well done to both of you, and thank you very much. I want to move on now to a company called Baldwin's. I mentioned this at the beginning. And this is a photograph that I got in the Old Dundalk publication, again by Victor Whitmarsh, in 1937. And just to read from the slide, W.P. Baldwin was the owner of the shop at 82 Bridge Street. Now, I went down to Bridge Street the other day, and I think that was beside where Kinney's Bakery was, or between Kinney's Bakery and O'Hare's old barber shop. I think it was there. William was an electrician and a plumber. The shop was renowned as a supplier of radios, and many of which were operated by batteries. That was particular to the rural parts of Ireland. But the problem was, as a consequence of the Second World War, it became impossible, I was told, that the family continue battery charging operations, thus the closure of the shop. William Baldwin worked in Harland and Wolff during the war, while Paddy, who's the gentleman in the picture here, a brother of William, was in the Air Force. After the war, Paddy qualified as a draftsman and was employed by the ESB. Again, after the war, William worked with his son, Frank Baldwin, in the rural electrification of Ireland. Now, this Frank Baldwin here now is still alive today, God bless him. He's 93 years of age and he lives in England. And he has expressed his gratitude to Dundalk FM for including his father's business in these programmes. And he actually considered coming over for tonight to be here, among other people who were in the same business, albeit he was in the business long before a lot of you people. But he does send his regards, and he's very, very proud of the fact he has Dundalk roots. Again, Paddy Baldwin, a bit like a previous discussion earlier, was a member or a founder member of the Clougholland Cycling Club. Just thought I'd show you that. Here's a summary now of all the people we talked about a few minutes ago. There were 17 of them. Here's some of the comments made by these people here. And this, to the best of my knowledge, are the television sets that these people sold. Now, it could be a wee bit out here, but you can see there was 4 different distributors for that product there, Pilot. Murphy's had one, but the 2 biggest ones I could find were Pye and over here, Philips. And when I asked this question, I was told that these were the televisions with the best signal. That's why they sold more. And I think there was only one who sold that Sierra, and it was Des Downey. So I want to say a big thank you tonight to Brian and the staff of the museum here, because outside you'll see on the mezzanine all this product here, and it's really worth your while going out and having a look at them. And again, Brian gave me this here. It's a wireless receiving license, and it's dated way back in, I think, 1937. I can't read it from here, but it cost 12 shillings and sixpence, and it was for receiving but not transmitting. And the funny name here, it's not funny, but it's funny that the name should be there. It's a Mrs. Traynor from St. Bridget's Terrace, so it's authentic, and it dates back all those years. I mentioned the Jack McCann up here. There's an invoice for a GEC 19-inch TV at £80 and some add-ons here, and this is the one we talked about R.Q. O'Neill's. Brian, would you like to tell us how this works in the museum, how you get your product in and what you do with them then?
We're just very fortunate that people, members of the public, people around here, just want to give these items to us. They see the value of these items, that future generations will actually be able to appreciate the life that we endured and we survived and we thrived. And the comment's been made, and it's been made several times, about the generosity of people. And the beauty of that is that we can actually have conversations about that, because I think we were just talking earlier that, like, for most people, they would remember or be more familiar with television having multiple channels. Whereas I remember when RTE2 just came on board, because I was living in one channel land, as it were. The funny thing is, just as Brian O'Neill was talking there, when you had that slide up, one of the adverts that they had was for high definition television in the 1950s, and HD television now, and that 70 odd years ago. Two different things. So we can talk about and highlight the nature and the changing nature of technology. The fact that people would go out on Christmas Day to repair a television set because you can't have a family with 4 kids driving mother and father up the wall, that type of thing. So it's the idea that, and even the change in technology with valves and governors and that type of thing. And even just something as simple as the radio, because I remember my father, when he was in London, the story that he told me was that for All Ireland Sunday, particularly in relation to the football, that he had a short band radio, and he'd get another group of Irish expats, and they'd find a very large electricity pylon, and he realised that if you link the aerial from the radio to the pylon, you had a very big aerial. So therefore, that's how they were able to get Micheál O'Hare's commentary on All Ireland Sunday. So it's the social connection and it's the interpersonal connection that all of these things have. And we can only do that and tell those stories because people are generous to us, and it's a great way to earn a living for us. It's as simple as that. So thank you to everybody who's so generous and so supportive.
Well, I think to a certain extent, Brian, you summarised a lot of things tonight, because we've effectively come to the end now, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to say a big thank you, but most of all, not just for turning up tonight, but the stories, because these are the stories that will have the lasting memory. When we all go home tonight, these are now all recorded, and everybody can listen to them, and you'll play them back whenever they come up on the radio, and you'll hear things you forgot that were even mentioned here tonight. And I think it's been a very valuable exercise, and actually what we're recording is the history of our town in the area of television manufacturing and sales. So a big thank you for turning up tonight. And is there any last word for anybody that would like to say?
Frank, I'd just like to mention one man that was highly involved with radios and later on televisions, but mostly radios. And that was a man called Michael Keenan. Now, most of the people here, from the dealers, the like of John McCarroll, Larry Maguire, they would know who I'm talking about. They call him Mickey Keenan, and at one stage, he was the man to go to if you had any problems with your radio or your television. He had a small workshop there beside the Roma down, it was O'Hagan's, at the back of O'Hagan's shop, just on the south side of the Roma. And a lot of us went down to Michael Keenan's workshop at night to find out the mysteries of these radios and how they worked. And Michael was there, and he had an oil stove there and a bench. and he'd be working away on the radios, and he would explain everything to you to the best of his ability. He started off as a coalman on the quay, taking coal off ships, and he ended up a radio and television repairman. And I'd just like to pay a tribute to him, because I would never have started without meeting Mickey Keenan and a lot of the other people here. Thanks.
Okay, we have just 2 more things to go. When you're doing these things, if you waited for 3 more weeks, you'd still get product and documentation in. A lady, neighbour of mine, came into the house last night with this. And this is a radio services invoice for a Murphy GE, Murphy, 26 receiver at £15, 15 shillings. But there's 2 things about it. It's dated 1935, which means it's 90 years old. So all your stories tonight about how far back we went, this lady who had an invoice in her drawer, 90 years old. And here's something I never knew about before. It was from a person called Bernard Comerford. And I never heard of it. So does anybody ever hear of a Bernard Comerford in town? There's 3 great stories there. 1, the Comerford name. 2, the fact that the invoice is 19 years old, or 90 years old. And 3, Elizabeth Mullen, nee Carlish at Park Street, actually still had that on file. I think it's a wonderful thing. Now, there's one more thing. Damien, you have a book here that you'd like to tell people about.
It's one of a series of books that come out every year, and it contained all the circuit diagrams of the televisions that were released. And this was a book that dealers could purchase, and all the technical information was in it of receivers that came out that year.
So you're going to leave that book outside for people to look through. And you have some other product out there as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So, Alan, would you like to summarise the night or say a few words at the end? Thanks, David.
Okay. And first of all, thank you for coming up tonight and sharing your stories. We have them recorded, which is brilliant. Over the last couple of weeks, Frank has been inviting people into more or less a reception. As our DJs were walking in, we were recording, and we're going to continue that on with people we haven't recorded already. No, just to say thank you very much for sharing your stories. I have to say an immense thank you to this man here who's done, you can see, a huge amount of work. It's his forte, and to Jim on PowerPoint there as well. Thank you.
Well, they had their own wee stamp.
Got away from it.
We were just talking about there. A good question would be, how did any of them men ever get any work done? My brother was saying the Mickey Keenans would be just talking all day and night. And all cracking. I never knew, Frank, are you?
Frank,
my dad talked about you.
Your dad, I knew him well. He put his certificate as City and Guilds. Tom might remember as well. At that time, we were all trying to get qualified. There was no apprenticeship as such, be it TV.
Was he in Dublin? Did he do one in Dublin?
Your dad?
Yeah.
He had the certificate in the front window of the shop at Universal.
Right.
Remember? Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
He had the City and Guilds certificate.
Along with a little Chinese lantern.
Yeah, he had it. Really? Has he still got it? I'm sure he's still got it.
Jeez, no, I don't know where it was. He often told us about it.
We didn't have qualifications.
Mainly organised around telecommunications, like phone. It was mainly put on that City and Guilds for the technicians that work in the post office and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And nothing of it was about.
Was that in Dublin? Did he go to Dublin to do that, or did they come down here?
That was the final part of Frank O'Callaghan's radio and TV presentation recorded in the AV Theatre, County Museum, Dundalk in September 2025. The next programme in the series is the first of 3 with Frank Byrne and Tom Lamb, both of who went on to work in GEC Dunleer. The series, Dundalk's Radio and Television People, was researched and presented by Frank O'Callaghan and recorded and edited by Alan Byrne. If you have a memory or photographs you would like to share to complement the series, please email alanbyrne@dundalkfm.com.